From this point onwards, we are going to explore how the 13 components of mathematics that I introduced to you earlier on are being used in our daily lives. I will be referring to each box in the above table rather than just reading its content, which you can do by yourself. I will provide a very short illustration. For each of the component, I have listed three real life uses. Of course, the real life usage of each component is in no way limited to those three. So let us begin. You will never regret having studied mathematics because it interests you to numbers. Everybody talks about becoming rich. Everybody wants to have money. But how do you count money? You need to be aware of numbers. This is a no-brainer. The good thing is that even people with no education have got some sense of numbers enough to make a living through business. Sure, we might not need the concept of complex numbers or prime numbers in our daily lives, but it doesn't hurt to know how much is a billion or a million or 100,000 or 1,000 or a dozen. Well, I'll leave this obvious application of numbers at this point. Next, numbers are very useful for us in making decisions. We are provided with various numerical data and statistics. We must be familiar with numbers in order to interpret them. Even in our minds, we must have the concept of sequence, like first, second, third, fourth, and so on. It's difficult to imagine life without numbers. Looking at your watch, reading the thermometer, looking at the amount of oil you must put in a recipe, determining the doses of medicine you have to intake. All those things require a familiarity with numbers. See, you are able to do all those things because you had studied mathematics. That was the easy part because at the beginning it was quite simple. Learning 1, 2, 3 was like learning ABC. Then within arithmetics, we learned about equal sign, the greater sign, or this lesser than sign. These operators helped us to compare various prices, quantities, options. Without these three operators, we would be unable to make decisions. In the English language, we have terms like it's better or it's worse, it's the same. This is the language of math, that is equal, greater than, lesser than. The brackets, the parentheses, and the braces seemed to give us a headache, but they help us follow multi-step instructions or to understand complex and long ideas. In terms of language, it is equivalent to saying chapter 1, section 1.1, subsection 1.1.1. Yes, you got the point. Those who are proficient with this grouping process of mathematics are very good at structuring their own writing and their thoughts. When you know this grouping process, you know what activities to do first and what to do next, and which instruction falls under what, and what is the overall big picture. I know that you have already come across the section 2.5.8. You are able to understand it because you understood grouping in mathematics. Addition and subtraction are an utmost necessity when it comes to money. Again, we all want to be rich. However, if you cannot sum up a bill that you are provided at the restaurant and overpay, that's not a good sign. Also, if you cannot balance your checkbook against your budget, which is nothing more than adding and subtracting, you won't be rich anytime soon. Just by knowing how to do plus and minus. Even people who haven't studied beyond grade 4 are able to find out who is swindling them by looking in the accounts books. Needless to say, by being good at adding and subtracting, shopping become easier, as well as solving any practical problem, like when your target is to reach a certain weight, let's say 70 kilograms, but your current weight is 86 kilograms. So subtracting the two figures, you realize that you've got to decrease 16 kilograms. When we reach multiplication and division, many students somehow find it too difficult and are not able to memorize the multiplication tables, and consequently they suffer throughout their lives. When you go shopping, it becomes very useful that you would know how to multiply and divide. One student in my counseling session who was in grade 12 said that he had problems in solving algebra. Then I asked him a very simple question to assess at which level his mathematical acumen had stopped growing. I asked him, if you go to a shop and you wanted to buy biscuits, but the shopkeeper is uneducated, and he says that one dozen biscuit cost 500 rupees. But then you say that you only need five biscuits. This boy didn't know what to do. When I told him he just needed to divide 500 by the dozen, which required a knowledge of numbers that he did not have enough, I guess, because he could not say that a dozen was 12. Anyways, I told him to divide 500 by 12. In this way, he would get the unit price. Since he needed 5 biscuits, he would have to multiply the unit price by 5. He remembered that he had studied multiplication in mathematics, but somehow he never got to put it into use. Slowly, after my counseling, he felt that in the end mathematics was useful and he should give it a shot. Multiplication and division are at most important part for managing resources efficiently. We need to make proportions scale up or scale down. We need to divide resources equally across people and departments. We need to know how much we need to multiply certain resources like money, time, people, in order to achieve goals in a desired time frame. Basically, we need this mathematical component to plan properly. Most of the students hate fractions and ratios and percentages. Consequently, they don't learn properly and they suffer later on, like with any of the components presented here, and their ignorance. Fractions are an extension of division and multiplication. For example, when we were a child and we were supposed to divide our pizza among 5 friends, then when we grow up and our parents pass away, we have to determine how much each of the siblings will get of the legacy left behind. Sibling A would get maybe 33%, sibling B also 33%, and sibling C 33%. That's about 100%. But what does that mean? Shouldn't you know? What if one of the siblings, let's say B, was highly educated and the others were dumb, and he said that he will take 50% and the other two would take 25% each, because the other two have no concept of percentage. He would convince them that it's just $25 and $50. There's no big deal. That's laughable, but what I'm getting at is knowing percentage is very important in our lives. Later on, when you take a loan, you'll have to be very familiar with what percentages are, because it will determine your interest rates. Basically, percentages help us live smarter lives, buy cheaper, and consequently become richer. When you become a professional, being able to understand ratios help you make decisions because it helps you interpret data. For example, let's say that you are the CEO of an organization, and your manager tells you that you achieved $1 million sales last year. So you are excited because you know the ratio. You will ask him, what is the profit margin? By dividing the sales with the cost, you get the profitability ratio. It turns out that your profitability is only 2%. Now your excitement is turned into disappointment. Basically, you spent $980,000 to make $1 million. That's not good. But this is what the knowledge of fractions, ratios, and percentage allowed you to understand. In this way, this component gives you tremendous analytical skills that will keep anybody who is trying to make a fool of you on their toes. Also, this component is very useful in construction work, like determining how much sand to mix with cement in order to produce the proper concrete, and so on. A very simple example is the salt, sugar, water mix we recommend when somebody has got diarrhea. The ratio is expressed as for 1 glass of water, mix 2 spoons of sugar and 1 spoon of salt. And that's a ratio being used in real life.